And I'm one of the Montane, sorry, I'm fixing my phone. I'm a Montane athlete, and I'm talking to you today about my project to run across a mountain range on every continent, which is something I started 3 years ago when I ran across Kyrgyzstan. So I'll tell you a little bit about that, and I already did questions on my own channel, and a lot of people asked about kit, so I actually brought my full expedition backpack with me, and I'm going to go through that in a minute. But I'll tell you about my first expedition, which was to run across the Tian Shan of Kyrgyzstan. And that was just meant to be a one-off. It wasn't a project at the time. I'm from the Canadian Rockies, and I live here in Scotland now, and it just came from, I missed the mountains and just wanted to go for a big run in the mountains and see how far I could go. And so I decided I would run all the way across Kyrgyzstan. I found out in the process that no one had ever run or even walked in recorded history across these mountains, man or woman. And I think there aren't a lot of world firsts left, or it seems like there's not a lot of world firsts left. So I got really excited about that. And, I probably should have spent more time thinking about why no one had run across Kyrgyzstan, but that didn't even cross my mind. I just went full blazing, really excited. And so I did that solo and unsupported. So that meant that I had to carry a heavy backpack with my tent and my camping equipment and everything I needed to survive in quite serious altitude. The Tian Shan in Kyrgyzstan, I was above 4,000 meters quite regularly. So that was about 1,000 kilometers long, and it took me 23 days to do it. It was brutally hard, but by far the best thing I'd ever done in my life. If you guys are familiar with Type 2 Fun, that's basically my bag. It was too hard, but then months later, after I got home to Scotland, I found myself really missing that lifestyle where all I did for 23 days was get up, pack up my tent, put it in my backpack, and then just run as far as I could in the right direction, hopefully in the right direction, not always, and then camp again and just keep on doing that. And I was just living in the mountains, and I was outside all the time and just running all day long. And I decided I really liked that, and I wanted to do it again. And I wanted to do it again all the time. So I decided I would do this on every continent, and then I could get to compare and learn about mountains in that way around the world. So then I ran across the Atlas Mountains in Morocco, of course. So that was my African chapter, and that one took me 21 days, don't even remember. And then after that, I ran across the Bolivian Andes for South America, and that one was 16 days, but by far the hardest. It was really high altitude, it was really remote, it was really scary all the time. Bolivia is a relatively difficult country. So that one was really hard. And then after that, I went to the Southern Alps in New Zealand, which this backpack actually is really still wearing the scars from it. There's like grass and shit stuck in my backpack still from the Southern Alps, but that one was really special because it was a Western country, and it was relatively easy to navigate, and obviously the Southern Alps are beautiful and the weather was beautiful. So I'm 4 down on running a mountain range on every continent. I had hoped to be packing up to go to the Caucasus in a few weeks to do my European range. Obviously the world has changed a little bit, so I'm still training at the moment. I'm still looking at maps and dreaming about it, but I don't know if it's going to happen. But anyways, so that's a little bit about me. I'm going to, like I said, I did a Q&A, and a lot of people have asked me about my kit, so I brought the legit backpack. This is a Montane Trailblazer, and I believe Montane is giving away one in this live stream, so all you have to do to win the exact backpack that I run across countries with is to let us know what your next adventure is that you're training for, planning for right now, and then Montane are going to send out one of these, a brand new one, not one that's got my blood and sweat on it, in your direction. So just let us know in the comments what you're training for. Anywho, so it is a 30-liter backpack. That's kind of, for me, what I found to be a really good level running in mountains, because obviously mountains, you've got to deal with a lot more weather. If you're doing a run that was lower altitude or in an easier place or in the summertime or whatever, you could certainly take a lot less. But with mountains, obviously you have to be quite prepared. And, like the Bolivian Andes, for example, I was sleeping out. It was almost always below freezing at night, so I had to pack quite well to deal with that. So I'll start with the outside. Trekking poles. I do run with trekking poles, especially if I have a big backpack. One, I'm doing serious distances. Most of these runs they've all been between 600 and 1,000 kilometers long. So the poles do take quite a lot off your legs and put it through your arms instead. And I found that just really helps for sustainability. And then obviously the backpack, my base weight is around 5 or 6 kilograms. And then once I add food and water, it is quite heavy. You know, I can run with a 10 kilogram pack. I can't go higher than that. But with 10 kilograms just suddenly added to your body, that's quite hard on your legs and your feet. So I've always found that poles really take a lot of that away from me. And also just helps with balance. You know, if you're doing gnarly trails with that 10 kilograms bouncing around, it just throws off, you know, the best runner will be throwing off their balance trying to cope with having a relatively large backpack on them. So I do run with poles. These are some carbon foldy ones. I don't know, I like them. I keep on breaking them. The thing that I like about this backpack is that there's lots of outside pockets, because obviously if you're fast packing, which is what this is called, expedition running, fast packing, the idea is that you're not having to stop and faff as much as you would if you were hiking or going slower. Like, you want everything to be accessible. So just the stuff that's inside the main compartment is the stuff I need to camp, and then everything else I want on the outside, so I can just grab it as I need it. So there's like these chest straps, and in there I'll have like snacks on the go, lip balm, sunglasses. What else have I got? More snacks. Yeah, so that stuff will be right next to me. And then on the other one is my little safety pouch. This is where my spot tracker, massive spot tracker, and my compass are. That kind of stuff that I want to keep really close to me. And obviously you want your spot tracker to have a really good view. If you're alone in the mountains, you kind of can't get away with not taking that kind of stuff. Hope you guys can see. Hat, very similar hat. In my hip pouch is where I'll have the water. Usually in mountains, water is so available that I'll just take a little one like this, like a 500 ml. Like when I did the Southern Alps, was the last one that I did, and there's just so much water, and you don't really have to filter it usually, so it's quite abundant. So it's literally a case of not having to be weighed down by water. Just every time I got thirsty, you just like take some and drink. So that was a real luxury. But when I did the Atlas Mountains, it was the complete opposite. There's no water out there, so I'd have to sometimes take 5 liters of water, and then just be totally reduced to walking, because that's just way too much weight. Other side, what have we got? Oh, I have my knife. I don't like this, but when I did the Bolivian Andes, there was a pretty serious level of human danger, which was really unpleasant and really uncomfortable. And so I did the first segment unarmed, and just found that I was just really struggling with the fear. So I bought a knife. I really, I can't even look at the camera and tell you this. I was really uncomfortable about it, but I did, there were a lot of warnings about traveling without a gun. I'm obviously not going to get a gun, but I eventually bought a knife. It's good for making kindling as well, but unfortunately it was my protection. Water filter. Obviously you want to keep that handy. And that's kind of just always going to be full of snacks, because, you know, a long expedition, especially an endurance challenge, is just basically an eating holiday. You just eat all the time. Gloves accessible, little down gloves, head torch accessible. I always get caught out after night. Never find my campsite in the light of day. I like to, you know, make the whole day. Hi, Zach. Inside the backpack. Inside the lid, if I had properly packed, this is where my first aid kit would go. By first aid kit, I mean like a roll of tape and some ibuprofen. Got a titanium spork. What else is in here? No, it's not packed. And inside the main compartment, like I said, I wouldn't like to go in here during the day very much, just because it's too much faff. But my desert island luxury item is always a proper toque. It's got to be a proper toque. If you guys don't know, that's the Canadian word for this kind of hat. It does have to have the bobble. That's vital. I think we can all agree. And of course, waterproof. You want to be the most accessible thing. I just use a really light, obviously a Montane one. You can see it packs down really small. Quite like that guy. My sleep system, when I started, I did a tent. And then I've just found that tents are, you know, just kind of unnecessary. I like to bivvy. So inside this stuffed sack, which is like covered in grime because I've had it for ages, I just have a waterproof sleeping bag, like a hydrophobic treated down sleeping bag, and then all my sleeping layers, like my wool and my puff jacket, is all in here, and I just pack it all in really tight, and that's kind of my hack for not taking up too much space. And then I sleep on, this is my sleeping mat. That's how big it is. It covers, I don't know, 10% of my body. And if I really need it, I don't use it every night. I have a one-man tarp that I put over me. And that's literally my whole sleeping system. It's just ground mat, tarp, and the sleeping bag that's in here with my jacket. And that's everything. And what else do I have in here? Stove. I would never go to altitude without a stove. I know that some people think it's a luxury to cook and all that, but number one, I'm not doing anything without coffee, so the stove is coming. And number two, again, like, I just don't think it's safe to go to altitude. I mean, the Andes and Tian Shan especially, I was at really serious altitude, and if you do get really cold, you've got to find a way to warm yourself up, and the best thing is that you're able to boil some water. And obviously, if my filter breaks, this is another way that I can keep getting clean water. So I would never do mountains without a stove. You can battle me on that if you don't agree. A little bit of fuel. And the one thing that's really missing from my kit today is obviously my camera and my battery pack. But otherwise, that's everything that I take, and that's what I would live with for about 3 weeks. So there's the pack. A lot of people sent in some questions, so I'm going to go through some of those, but if you guys have questions, please post them in the comments, and I'll try to see them as I go along. One that came in was the top tips for planning mountain adventures when all this is over. I think you can get really caught up in planning and never go. I think the best thing to do is to just go, like, start small. If this is all new to you, start small, like whatever you have available to you, whether it's the local hills, or if you're like me, you live in Scotland and you have access to bigger mountains. You know, take a weekend away, or even just take an overnight trip and take your bivy kit and see what you learn. Like, just try something. Just set yourself a challenge. Make a list of the things that you need, the things that you don't have, whether that's skills or whether that's equipment. I'm a really big fan of making lists and then just checking those things off and getting those barriers out of the way. So if you don't know how to do something, go learn how to do it. If you're scared of navigation, go take a course or start to study it. You know, whatever it is that's holding you back from planning a trip, just get rid of those barriers is what I would say. So, you know, just pick a weekend and go. Hopefully we'll be able to at least do small weekends soon. Next question. Oh, this is a good one. How did you have the confidence to do your first solo adventure? I would say I didn't, if I'm really honest. I was 21, I just finished uni, I'd moved back to Canada to my parents' house, and I decided I wanted to go to the Yukon and I was going to cycle there, and I'd never cycled at all. Like, I'd been to spin class because I was a marathon runner, so I did spin twice a week, and I figured that qualified me to cycle 3,000 kilometers over the Rocky Mountains. It didn't. But you know what, I just decided it was important to me. It was something I wanted to try, and figured if I failed, then, you know, at least I would know. You know, if I didn't try, then I would never know whether I was capable of it. So I just went and bought a bicycle, got my camping equipment, strapped it to it, and I went. And yeah, how did I have the confidence? I don't think I did have the confidence. I think I was scared shitless the entire time, but, you know, it was something that grew as I went along, and I think I just trusted that it would, either my confidence would grow or I would fail, and those were kind of the two options. So obviously my confidence did grow, and I still struggle with that all the time. I still set myself challenges that scare me too much to really believe that I can do it, but the more things that I do, the more things that I achieve. From like when I ran my first marathon when I was 20 years old, and I thought that was the pinnacle of everything that I could ever achieve, up to the stuff that I'm doing now. Every time it's been something that is a little bit too hard, that really does scare me, that I don't have the confidence for, but I figure I got through the last thing. You know, I got through that marathon, I got through that cycle up to the Yukon, I ran across Kyrgyzstan, all these things. Like, once you start achieving like small things and then moving up and up and up, your confidence grows, or at least your faith that you're going to find a way through it grows. So I hope that answers your question in a really rambling way. Next one. What do you carry and how do you keep your gear light? Okay, so I just showed you what I carry. Keeping it light, that's a really good point actually, is that I don't bring seconds of anything. So I wear the same t-shirt the entire time, for example. Maybe that's why I have to run alone. I don't carry, I carry spare socks. That's something that you gotta change your socks every day, wash them out in a river. But other than that, there's just one of everything and only things that you need. And that's kind of the best thing about fast packing and expeditions, is that you'll spend 3 weeks having only what you need and you won't get any more. And I think that's something that we're all experiencing right now in lockdown, is that, we're not going out to the shops and getting stuff that we don't need. We're not going out doing stuff that we don't need to do. We're all like discovering what we really can live with and what we can really live without. And that's kind of what an expedition's like. And then every time I get home and I look at my closet full of clothes, I just get really disgusted with it and end up taking stuff to the charity bin every single time I go on an expedition, just because it's so lovely living without extra stuff. Next question. Do you feel trips work best with a clear plan, sticking to pre-planned miles, or go with the flow? This kind of depends on your personality type, I think. For me, I really like going with the flow. I mean, that for me is what adventure is all about, is being open to things going wrong and things changing or new opportunities coming up. So I'll go into any expedition with as good a plan as I possibly could have. Like, I'll know what I'm doing, I'll know where I'm going. I'll have a lot of routes saved in my GPS, so I've got like options, because obviously I don't know if the trails are going to go, because these runs that I've done have all been world first where trails don't exist. So I don't really know if it's going to work. So I'll make as much of a plan as I can, and I'll set myself a target, like I want to finish it in 20 days or whatever it is, and I'll know how many miles I need to run every single day for that to happen. But then I'll just instantly give myself forgiveness that this probably isn't going to go to plan, that, things are going to change, and I'll be open to that change. If I get to a village, maybe I had a plan that I was going to run 12 hours that day, but then I got to a village and it was really friendly and someone invited me for lunch, then I'm happy to stop and change my plans, because this is an adventure at the end of the day. I'm not doing this for any other reason than to explore and meet people. So combination of well planned and going with the flow. How are you keeping busy in lockdown? And I'm actually doing okay with keeping busy. So first of all, I'm doing 50 push-ups a day. Get on board with the 50 push-ups a day challenge. I still do most of them for my needs. So that's major. I still have a little bit of work. Obviously, a lot of my work is travel and events, so that's lost. But I'm a writer as well, so I've got that work coming in. Trying to still get, in the UK, we have one exercise allotment a day, so I'm like getting that, and they don't currently have a time limit on that, so going out for some nice big rides and sometimes going running and stuff like that. So just trying to make the most of it. I think if you wake up every day in a lockdown and you don't have a plan for what you're going to do with the day, then it's quite easy to get bored and not know, like get a bit listless and lose your routine. So I think just keeping with your routine, and I worked from home before this whole thing started anyway, so maybe it's just a little bit easier for people like me. I see a question coming in from Elliot. Do you do a lot of stretching? Yeah, I used to be massively into yoga, and I've kind of let it slip, and that's something that I need to get back. Like, that's something I would do on an expedition, as I would start every day, because you wake up, the day before you've run an ultra marathon with a backpack, so you wake up pretty brutal every morning. So I'd always wake up, have like 2 cups of coffee, and then do some yoga, and then pack up my campsite and start walking for maybe 10 minutes before I start to run. And I would finish every day with some yoga as well. So I used to do quite a lot, and it really worked, and I've kind of fallen off it, but maybe now that I'm in lockdown is a really good time to get back to the yoga. So thanks for that question. What else have we got? First steps to planning a trip. How do you pick the route, and how do you minimize safety risks? 3 questions in one. What's the first step to planning a trip? I think it's just decide what you want. Like, when I decided to run across Kyrgyzstan, I just knew that I really wanted some mountains that I didn't know. And so I came across those mountains, and I just knew I wanted those mountains. And so I didn't know yet whether I would run or hike or cycle or what I was going to do. I just knew that I wanted those mountains. And that was what was really important to me. Whereas other times I've been like, I want to go bike packing for a few weeks. Where am I going to go? So it's like deciding what you want, and then fill everything in from there. Like, what do you want to do around that? How's that going to work? What are you capable of? What do you have the time for? Et cetera, et cetera. So just pick what you want. I mean, throw a dart at a map, whatever it is. And the next part of that question was, how do you pick your route? Route planning is, I think, the most exciting part. I really like doing it. I know that navigation scares quite a lot of people, and I don't think it really should. I understand why navigation's intimidating, but I think if you're an ultra runner or a trail runner, you need to learn how to navigate. Like, you can't just rely on trails all the time. Like, what if something goes wrong and you need to get back to the village? Like, you need to be able to navigate. So it is something that I put a lot of time into. And when I'm planning one of my runs that have been these world firsts where there is no trail, where I have to like make it up, that's a lot of time spent on every map that I can find, every navigation app that exists, and like really carefully planning every little segment of the route. So factors with that, because I'm going unsupported, is that I need to make sure that I get through enough villages where I'm going to be able to pick up food and water, where I have kind of regular access to contact with people, because if you're going remotely into really hostile environments, so the more you see people, the more people there are likely to know that you're out there, just in case something goes wrong. You don't like to think about it, but you should minimize against that kind of stuff. And then obviously picking the route that you want to do. Like, I really like ridges, for example. Like, I'll go out of my way to make sure that a mountain run has a good ridge in it if I can find one. Some people will take in some summits. Some people will like waterfalls, like whatever it is. Like, just pick what you like and make it work for you. I think that's the best thing about running in this way, rather than following a set trail, like doing the West Highland Way or something. Like, I mean, the West Highland Way is great. You should do it. But like, if you have to go completely off piste and make your own route, it means that you can just make it your adventure. You can make it something that you want to do and something that serves you, and you don't have to worry about how other people do it or how fast they do it or whatever, because like, you're the only person that's done it. You have this total freedom to just create something that that totally suits you. So that's how I pick my route. But always, like with these world's first ones, I've always had to go into it with 2 or 3 different options for everything, because I just don't know if it's going to go. Like, I've quite often found that what I found on the internet or like looking at satellite maps just didn't pan out when I got there in person. So then I had to go to a plan B. So I always have these plan Bs, and then, you never know what's going to happen. And then that last part of that was, how do you minimize safety risks? That's a really difficult one, especially if you are going solo, which I am. You have to take it quite seriously. And if you're solo, I think you have to take it twice as seriously, because there's no one there to help you. If something goes wrong, you have to know how that's going to work. So obviously I have a spot tracker. Obviously my mom knows where I am, but she's obviously in Canada. So she just kind of has to know the protocol of like what we set out for if something does happen, like if I need to get rescued. So spot tracker and insurance are kind of the first ones. And then it's, operating at least a little bit within your comfort zone. So running across a mountain range is well outside my comfort zone. It always will be. It should be well outside anyone's comfort zone. It's really hard. But within every daily activity, I'll work within my comfort zone as much as I can. So I'm running the smart way rather than really fun way. So I'm not doing any massive risks. I'm not doing, if there's a river crossing that looks a little bit too gnarly, I will spend quite a lot of time finding another way around, because I'm alone. Like, if I get swept away by the river, that's that. I do have this game that I play. People always ask me if I get bored when I'm alone running, and I don't for some reason. But I have this one game that I do play if I start to get bored, and it's called What Would You Do? So I'll be running along and I'll think, okay, like right now and exactly where I am, exactly the way that the ground looks, exactly what I've got in my pack, how much water I have left. If I like snapped my femur right now, or if a tornado came, or like whatever, like I'll like think of some horrible scenario and say, okay, what would I do? And then that challenges me to think, do I know where the nearest village is? How long would my water last? Should I get my sleeping bag? Like, I'll go through it in my head, just to challenge myself every now and then and make sure that I know how to stay safe, because it's cool to take risks and to have adventure, but you have to do it responsibly. You have to always be thinking about, how am I going to make sure that I don't become a burden on mountain rescue? That would be the worst thing for me. I think I'm running over time, so I'm going to take one last question and then leave you guys. And just a reminder, if you want to win a cleaner version of this backpack, just send in a comment for us telling us what adventure you're planning for or training for right now, and Montane will let the winner know when Montane lets the winner know. I have no idea. One last question. Oh, okay, this is a good one. What was the catalyst for your first big solo run? I really don't know how I decided I was going to run across Kyrgyzstan. Like, I think a bottle of wine was involved. It's probably how all my adventures get hacked. It really just came from I wanted to be in the mountains. I just love mountains. That's, I think, what my church is. It's where my heart lies. And I just wanted to try a mountain range that I had never even heard of and seen, see if I still get that feeling of like being at home the way that I get in all mountains. So it came from just wanted to go to those mountains. And I think originally I was gonna mountain bike, but then I realized, you know, they're only 1,000 kilometers across. If I went on my bike, it would be over too soon. I really wanted to slow it down and really absorb the landscape. And just kind of these ideas spiraled that I thought, well, you know, if I ran, how would I do it? You know, I don't want to take a Jeep driving behind me with all my stuff. I want to be self-sufficient. So how would that work? And so I went running in the Highlands with a massive backpack, and it was a total catastrophe. So I realized, okay, that doesn't work, but maybe if I did it with less stuff and less stuff and less stuff, and just kind of kept on trying this idea until I was able to figure out that actually I could probably run for this long, or like indefinitely, and support myself, so not have to rely on vehicle support. And I just wanted to test that, and I really just wanted to go somewhere that I'd never heard of and run as far as I could and see if I could do it. And I really never thought I could do it, but 1,000 kilometers later, somehow I made it. I'm still kind of astonished that it worked out. It was the hardest thing I ever did. Yeah, I don't have any time for any more questions, but get in touch with me on my own Instagram channel. It's Jenny Tuff, and fire away your questions. If you email me, I do try to get back to everyone that does. I obviously have no excuse for not getting back to you right now because we're in lockdown. I've got tons of time. So yeah, let us know what your next adventure is, and Montane will send somebody a Montane Trailblazer. It's an awesome backpack. I run with them. And yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.